Welcome. Just going to wait a couple minutes before we get started. This is our first live, so going to see how it goes. But two people in the room, fantastic. That's all I need, to be honest, to feel like I'm using my time wisely, hanging out with you guys. For those of you that are on, throw something in the there we go. Hey, Kevin. Awesome. Okay, I'm just kind of seeing how this platform works. I've never tried live. uh, Maria, this is all about coins. Kevin, Dave, how you doing? Maria, we're going to be going through my 1794 large cents. I think is primarily what I was going to do tonight, but this is the first time that I've gone live, so we'll see how it goes. All right, we got people picking up here. We're up to 17. I'm going to start in 3 minutes, so feel free to hang out and drop comments in the interim. I'm going to get my beverage ready. Going with Jim Bridger whiskey tonight, which if you follow the channel, I've been working on this bottle for a while, and this is its last run, I think. So I'm going to get that poured. This whiskey is coming from Bozeman Spirits in Bozeman, Montana. One of my childhood neighbors, she and her husband own this distillery, so I get some samples here and there, and my wife owns a bar restaurant, so I'm the beneficiary of the fun liquor stuff that comes through the door. Yeah, Dave, grab your last beer. We got 2 minutes. All right, 1 minute to go. How's everybody doing tonight? Again, drop into the comments. Let me know you're here. First time trying a live stream. Um, Looking forward to it. See how long we go. Kevin, you're at work. Nice. Anytime I can hang out and watch YouTube at work, I do. I'm self-employed sometimes. Sometimes I have a boss, but anytime I can watch YouTube while at work, I like to multitask. Anymore, I do better if I have something playing in the background, to be honest. All right. Biodiesel, huh? Interesting, interesting. Okay, it's 6:30. Let's get going. Thanks for joining me. I am Dan. If you're not familiar with this channel, this is Dan Talk Cents, where I talk about mostly early American copper cents. Drop the background music down a little bit. If there's any issues with anything, levels, or I don't know, you need if stuff's out of focus, just let me know. So I thought what we do tonight is just hang out a bit, and then I was going to go through my 1794 large cents, which is my primary collection. There's 58 varieties of 1794 large cent. They're really interesting, in that many of the details were hand engraved on these. I'm going to go ahead and clear the desk a little bit. Toss some things that we don't need over here for now into the for sale box, which really all I have for sale right now is a Sheldon 41. that I upgraded recently, and my downgrade's a pretty nice little coin. But all right. First up is my Sheldon 17A, which is a pretty spectacular little coin. These heads of 93 are hard to find in any kind of respectable condition, and this one is rather nice. The issues you're seeing on the planchet are actually because it is a crummy condition copper planchet. The copper blanks that were used in the early mint had all kinds of problems, and the 17 variety in particular is known to be one that has really terrible planchet quality. Reverse on this one has a little bit of built up corrosion that I'm not going to try and address. This is a pretty valuable coin. In fact, this is the most I've ever spent on a coin was this one, and I could have gotten a decent car for what this coin costs. But getting a really nice example of a head of 93 is tough. This one is well up in the condition census, top 10 in the world without question. Probably more like 6th or 7th finest. Hey Chris, Mr. Pennington, sweet, sweet nectar. How much do I want for this one? I'd sell it for 10,000, but I'm not trying to sell it. Anything that I have on the desk, we can go back and look at again, but that would be my first variety of 1794. This is the Sheldon 17A, which is, again, the first variety of 1794 large cent. I got that one from Dan Trollin. It doesn't have a lot of provenance behind it because he discovered it from a Nevada token dealer. Dan had like the second and the 6th or something finest, and then this one, 2nd and 4th finest. Anyway, he had 3. This was his 3rd nicest example. I was glad to get it. Next up is the Sheldon 18A. Sheldon 18 and 19 share an obverse. They have a different reverse. And the edge lettering, which we're not going to really be able to see here, is different between the A and B variant. The A variant means it's an edge of 1793, and it has a leaf that points down, I want to say. This one's an A also. We can probably see it better since it's higher grade. There we go. Yeah. Can you see that leaf right there? It points down. That lets you know you have an edge of 93, which this one does as well. So it's a Sheldon 18 with the edge of 93. It's a rare coin. It's like a rarity 6. There's like 30 of these in the world, and this one is actually well into the condition census. I've got a book handy. Let me grab it. Let's see. Suppose I'll pull out the noise book for any of my coins that are in there. So the one that we're looking at right there is that coin right there, right? Tied for 13th finest in the world. And I know that another nice example has come out in the last year. So really, as far as this book goes, it should bump down a position. But very scarce coins. Let's look at the nicest. Yeah, the nicest 18A is a 30. The second nicest is a 20. The third nicest is a 12. These are really, really rare varieties, the 18As. So I'm glad to have one at all. And again, we just looked at mine. It's plated right there. Kind of a fun coin. This one used to be Chuck Hex. If you're not familiar with Chuck Heck, I know some of you are. Chris, you got Chuck's book recently, if I'm not mistaken, his Die States book. Let me grab it. So this is Chuck Heck's book, and it just goes through the die states of 1794 large cents. It's a really specialized book, but if we go, let's just flip to the 18s here. When you go live, you have to have this vertical orientation, so it's kind of hard to show as much as I usually would. Let's see, there's a Sheldon 20, a Sheldon 19, Sheldon 18. So this is Chuck Heck's Sheldon 18A. This is Chuck Heck's book. Again, a really tough variety to get in any kind of decent condition. I'm sure the one we're looking at there is one of those top couple. Next up, You got the second to last one. Yeah, that's right. I ended up reaching out to Chuck to get another book just to have one, and he is fresh out. So anyone that has one of Hex Die State's books, you're lucky to have it. It's a very good resource and very scarce. So this would be my Sheldon 18B. That one I got from Tom Deck. Let me take a look at the provenance on that one. So it's a rarity 4, whereas this was a rarity 6, and this is a rarity 5 minus. The 18B that I have, G.S. Hauer, and then it was in the Old Virginia collection, which is Scott Moore, and it was the first of my heads of 93. The 18s have pretty weak reverses. You're going to see when I get into the 19s next, they have a very deep dish dentilled reverse. So there is the same obverse die, but the reverse die gives it a very different appearance. This next one's one of my favorite coins, and it is unusual. Look how green this thing is. It's completely covered in like verdigris and bronze disease. And when I got it, it was tough to make out the portrait on Liberty. And again, that reverse, now we're actually seeing that the sort of dished dentillation, whereas these are both very flat. So I put a lot of thought into what to do with this one. If I would have conserved off that green, you would have ended up with surfaces that look kind of like that. So I was hesitant to remove the corrosion. And then I consulted Jerry Bobby, who is like a world-class conservationist. And he confirmed, like anything you do to take the green off, you're going to lose your portrait. And then what he suggested I do is apply some wax to this coin, which was the first coin I have ever waxed. And I love the outcome. Again, these 19As are very tough to find in any kind of decent condition. I'm going to go ahead and pull out that noise book again just to show you that. So into these 19As, again, we're going to see the finest is a 30, followed by a couple of 20s, followed by some 12s and a 10. By the time we're at the 6 finest, we're at a VG10. These things are very hard to find in any kind of reasonably good condition. We're in the condition census with good 4s. Now, I don't know exactly where mine would fall within the condition census, but it's in there. There's just not that many that have a portrait that you can actually appreciate. And I think some of the provenance records mention that. One of the old sale ads that I have for this coin, one of the auction catalog listings, talks about how it is as sharp as the finest known example, but has obviously all of these problems and this wild green color. And yeah, I really enjoy this one. It's light, like it's definitely lost metal. You can feel that it's lighter than another coin in comparable condition. But I think it's a neat one. I really enjoy this one. Next up would be the 19B. This one is sort of a better example. It doesn't have all that crazy environmental damage going on. But it does have a pretty fat planchet. You know when it sticks to those rings that it's a little larger diameter than average. So there's our obverse, and I think you'll find that these two are fairly comparable in terms of overall grade, condition, and wear. Hey Tom, yeah, this is all going to be flowing hair scents. They're all going to be 1794s, at least at the beginning. So what we have here again is an 18 and a 19, same obverse die. And when you find these in low grade, you can identify your obverse die, and then you got to figure out which reverse it is between an 18 or a 19. And one of the best ways to do that when they're in low grade is just to look at the back and see if it's got any evidence of a rim, in which case it's probably a 19. They got pretty deep dished dentillation there, whereas the 18s are usually, have a weak dentillation and wear slick pretty quickly. again, 18, 19. And then the last of the heads of 93, and I do have all of the collectible heads of 93. That's one segment that I have completed in full. Is this Sheldon 20B. Get a nice portrait, a good bit of environmental damage. And the same reverse. These are going to be the exact same droopy stems reverse. Let's see if I can make them line up a little better. There we go. So on the reverse of these, if you see the stem and the ribbon tail, the stem just lays kind of right on top of that ribbon tail and it's kind of droopy. It doesn't stick out prominently at all. So this 20 I got from Glenn McCauley, and lots of unknown provenance, but Glenn's father, Chris, has had this a couple of times, and if you're not familiar with Chris McCauley, he's one of the bigger names in early American copper. He has early cents auctions and is just a prolific dealer. So now we're going to move into the heads of 1794. First up is the Sheldon 21, which is the flat pole. This one came from the New Cumberland collection. Pretty nice example. You can kind of see that flat pole at the bottom there. She's always got a pointy nose on the 21. Always kind of looks like she's smiling. And then on the reverse, again, we see the droopy stems. I think you can see that where the stem is just kind of laying on top of the ribbon tail. Flat pole is a pretty neat variety, pretty distinct. Definitely one that if you study them a little bit, you'll pick out fairly easily. Gosh, I have one more that's got blundered edge lettering, but you're not going to be able to see that very well, so I'm just going to skip it. Let's jump into the Sheldon 22. Another one that has a notoriously large diameter planchet. This is the bent lock variety. Let's see if we can see that. I need to get a toothpick or something to point. So it's going to be this lock right under the toothpick. Comes out and then it sharply bends down. There, you can probably see it right there. See how that lock comes out and bends sharply down? And then this one's got some little planchet voids that somehow spare the face. I don't know if they were just struck up through the voids or what's going on, but pretty respectable example of a bent lock. And another very recognizable variety. Still going in sequence with the Sheldon 23. We haven't found any gaps yet. I am complete up to this point. This one's the shattered obverse. And if you look, you can see a die crack that runs from kind of the tip of the pole up. Another die crack that runs from the eye, like Liberty's eye, just past the Y. And then the last crack appears just along the cap, and mine doesn't have that one developed yet. This is a pretty rare example, R4 Plus, and they're hard to find nice. This one I upgraded. I did sell my downgrade here on the channel, actually. I've only sold a couple of coins, but this was one of them. Rather nice example, I think. Okay, still in sequence, we're going to go to the Apple Cheeks. This is one of my favorite coins. It was a cherry pick. So I found this one on eBay. Apple Cheeks variety. You can see she's got big plump cheeks there. And that variety was named by, hey Chris, how's it going? Named by Walking Dead. How you doing, man? Thanks for jumping in. Apple Cheeks was named by Dr. Sheldon's father, actually, and that name kind of stuck. The Apple Cheeks variety is iconic. It's common. This one has a sunken reverse die. You can kind of see that in the middle area. Where did I put my toothpick? Here it is. In this area here, the devices are sort of obliterated. And what happened there was that the surface of the die sunk up a little bit. So when it struck coins, it left a hump on the surface, and that wears prematurely. So when you see premature wear on the center of an early large cent, you're probably looking at a sunken die. Not oftentimes they're undergraded because people don't know to look for the premature wear from the sunken die. This one I found on eBay. It did note the provenance for Tom Reynolds, but it didn't note Al Boca and Chuck Heck both owned this coin. It's two of the biggest names in 1794s, and their envelopes I saw in the listing, despite their names not appearing in the listing details. So I reached out to both Al and Chuck, confirmed that this was their former coin, and Chuck in particular said that he got it because it really illustrated the sunken die reverse well. And then it is fairly late die state. There is a bisecting crack, but it's very faint on these, so you really can't see it. But again, this one came from Chuck Heck, who studied it a little bit for its die state. And again, as we've talked about, Chuck Heck wrote the die states book for 1794 cents. So it's a neat provenance to have on any 1794. Walking Dead, you fell into it. I decided to do this just a couple hours ago. My wife and my daughter both work tonight. The boys are off at college, so I'm home alone for the first time, like, I don't know, ever. So I had about a 3-hour heads up. I tossed something up on the channel and said, hey, I'm going to go live tonight. I've never tried it before. And thankfully, it's working. Seems to be working fine. It's one of those things where I couldn't exactly try it out in advance. Because if I were to try it out, I would be live, right? So this is my first attempt. So far, so good. We'll just keep pouring through the 1794s, and I'll try and keep an eye on some of the comments as well. And I'll keep sipping on this whiskey. This is, again, that Jim Bridger whiskey that I poured right before we started. It's almost gone, and it was the end of that bottle, so I'll be switching to something else here in a little bit. I don't drink all that often, but I do enjoy having a drink on the channel while talking about coins. Sheldon 25 is up next. Again, we're still in sequence without missing any of the varieties of 1794. I just put on classical radio, and I don't know when that turned into opera. Alexa, skip. So here we have a Sheldon 25. This is the divided date, and of course mine's obscured by heavy damage right there, like a massive rim bump. But this one's interesting because it's always got some voids in the hair. Nothing too particularly interesting about this variety. So I just kind of have this one as a hole filler for now, and I'll get a nice one someday. Staying in sequence for the S26, it's another one that I do need to upgrade, but it does have fun diagnostics. Let's look at this one. So the 26 has that divided date we were just talking about, and it is distinctly like 17 and then 94. And again, lots of weird hair details on this variety. The reverse on this one picks up a couple of good die breaks. And this one's really quite advanced, as you can see. So the first crack goes up through the E, and the second crack goes over through the S, and then progresses rapidly. A variety that I like, and again, an example I'd like to upgrade eventually, but this one works for me for now. Next up's the Sheldon 27. This one actually has some pretty cool provenance. And although it's low grade, it's a nice low grade example. Let me get my notes for provenance on this one. Most of the last few didn't have much going on for ownership history, but this one certainly does. This one is shown in the registry as an AG3, and I think it came out of a straight graded 3 or 4. I think it was a good 4 holder, perhaps. This one first came on scene in 1947, so that's a while back, through an A&A sale. Went to Dr. Ken Sartoris after that, then Del Bland, which is a huge name. Hey Al, how's it going? Kevin, enjoy work, my friend. I will catch up with you more later. Thanks for jumping on. So Del Bland owned this coin. Big name, very big name in numismatics. Followed by Jules River, another huge name. Then it went to Tom Reynolds, and then Rory Lassiter, who, if you don't know Rory, he's around all the Facebook groups and whatnot. I talk to him pretty regularly, and I was excited to get this one from him, particularly with that great list of provenance. Again, not a whole lot to see in terms of detail, just a rare variety, and there is a little bulge that goes through right there under my thumb. You can kind of see that. This one had sort of light environmental damage and it appeared to have circulated afterwards. And I suspect that this one probably had uniform light granularity, and then a conservationist probably pocket carried this with their change to smooth out the high points. That is a trick that people do use in conservation, is if it's got surface issues, just pocket carry it and circulate it down a grade, let it tone back up, and you end up with something like this. And that might have been done, 100 years ago. But a very nice coin, I think. All right, Sheldon 28. It's the last one before I have to break up the sequence. Because so far, again, we are complete on 1794s up through this 28. So this 28 had quite a bit of environmental damage, and it's a common variety. This is nothing special. But I decided to toss some Renaissance wax on this coin and brush it in. I have a video out there about that. And I'm really happy with the results. I'm not an advocate for just waxing coins for the heck of it, although back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, people did wax their coins often. But this one certainly improved from a little bit of wax and really evened out the sheen. It's a much more presentable coin now. So that's my 28. All right, that's the first tray down, except for the one with the blundered edge letters that is absolutely nothing to look at but for the blundered edge letters. So we're going to not dig into that one any further. So I got to skip 29 and 30. Wax is far better than shellac. We have a couple that, no, we have two that are shellacked. This one's shellacked for sure. I should have mentioned that. I thought this might be waxed, but it is not. That is definitely a very hard shellac. And when we get to my Sheldon 57, which was in the Norweb collection, huge collection, it's been shellacked as well. And then my father's Libertas Americana, like an original of these, they only struck a couple hundred of them, like 150 exist. His is a nice uncirculated example, but it's been shellacked. So it's like a, MS 60 something sharpness, but you got to net it down to about a 40. This one is a problem coin that I got for dirt cheap as a placeholder, and it's got wax on it too. And it's been recolored. This is a rough coin. Looks like I gave a couple $100 for it. I got it from Tom Deck. And this is the only coin you're going to see today where I used like a darkening sulfur paste. Let me find it here. I used some of this stuff on this coin. It was a really weird cleaned and corrosion two-tone. It was like raw and corrosion two-tone. So I darkened it up a little bit. Oh, hey, Pete. Thanks for jumping in, brother. Yeah, you're someone I need to talk to a little bit more about conservation and recoloring. I don't intentionally clean coins. I mean, I don't generally. clean coins. But once you have a coin that's been cleaned, recoloring it when it's a copper coin is worth doing as long as you disclose it. Again, I will never not disclose that this one has been artificially darkened. But again, a placeholder coin, really. So let's jump into the next one. Sheldon 32 is next, which is a great variety. Not a great example that I have, but a great variety. The Sheldon 32s, and I actually sold my nicer one. This one I like because it's very late die state on the reverse. You see that crack right there through S, right there? Very advanced late die state on the reverse. And on the obverse, on a nicer coin, during the 32 run, it picks up a little cud over the L. You can't quite make it out here. It does exist here, but it's hard to make out. But 32, that crack through the S develops, and this is a very advanced, either the last or second to last die state on a 32. I'm hoping to get one eventually in high grade that has all of the clash marks, and I want to show those to you real quick. So I'm going back to Chuck Heck's Die States book here. I just got to hit up the index, Sheldon 32, page 80. There's something neat that happens on these 32s. So they start out perfect die, but as the dies get beat up, used, and abused, you start to see the die crack develop, and then you see these little clash marks that are picking up here. That's from the cap clashing on the reverse. And then you'll get more of those. Can you tell that's the cap under the TED of United? The cap clashing over and over and over. See that? That's 6 different cap clashes. And then I think the next page we get to see 7. There we go. How wild are all those clash marks from that cap? And then you get that very advanced crack through S. That's just a really neat little snapshot of a quarter of a coin, I think. And I'd like to get one that illustrates that well someday. Certainly the one that I have here does have some of those clashes occurring, but the coin is just in such low grade that it's hard to really make them out and appreciate them. So that's a variety that I'm going to save up for a nice example of eventually. So that's a 32. I don't have a 33, which is a wheel spoke reverse, and I don't have a 34, which is a sort of standard looking but rare variety. Let me show you the wheel spoke here. We might as well touch on the ones that I'm skipping. So the Sheldon 33 is the wheel spoke, and it starts to pick up these little cracks around the outside. Which you can see one through like the A in America on that example. But it picks up like 5 pretty good wheel spokes. Let's see how many we got here. A in America, I in United, between AT and States, before U in United. That one's starting to pick up quite a few. That sort of illustrates it well. So you get a bunch of die cracks from the outside, and the center of the die sinks, and that's what you end up with. A fairly rare variety and highly sought after. They're just really expensive. Let me see what the rarity is. Yeah, it looks like it's a rarity 6. Might be a little more common now. There's been some updates since this book came out. But it's a rarity 6, and it's really sought after for the diagnostics, so they're tough to find. Oh, and then Sheldon 34 I was going to show you. So there's a 34. Again, kind of just a basic looking example. And then I skipped the 29 and 30. The 29 looks like the 28. It just has the same reverse as the 30, so we'll just go to the 30. The 30 has a double lower lock, and then the reverse has a long right ribbon tail. Really cool variety, and again, one that I'm kind of just holding out for a nice grade. I like that diagnostic and that both, so I would like a nice 30. And then you saw my 31, which also is technically one of the double lower lock varieties. It is the same obverse die as the one previous. It was just lapped, and then the hair details extended on this one. So the lower hook on the 31 is lighter because it's been lapped down from what it was on the 30, where it's got like a heavy prominent double lower lock. I did quite a bit of study on the 30, 31, and then the 38 through 40. I got some videos on that out there if you want to check them out. But moving on to the next one is the 35. I think that's my biggest gap, that 28 through 35, with only those two low grade ones in between. Big old bisecting crack. Can you see that? I would hope so. Starts there, ends down there. And again, a sunken die reverse on this one. Very well illustrated there. You can just see exactly where the die sunk, bulged the surface of the coin, and then it wore smooth. So as ugly as that coin is, with those heavy pits and whatnot, it's actually a pretty important example. Going back to the book. So you can see that die crack here. And what's interesting is the offset on this die break. Let's see if I can explain it and make it make sense. This sits higher than this on the surface of the coin. This side sits higher. It sits higher here than on that side. Higher, lower, and then higher, lower. It's an interesting little offset that occurred. And my coin is in this book, so let me flip the page. Here we are. So bottom center, they're calling it a 20 net 5 Scudsy, which seems fair. Provenance on this one. Richard Punchard, Wes Rasmussen, through heritage to Rod Wydock, Ronald Ilian, Sean Yancey, Doug Durasoff, and I got it from Doug. Doug is someone who just completed all 58 varieties and is working on upgrades, so I have benefited from a couple of Doug's downgrades, this being one, and then I'll make sure and point out the other when we get there. Yeah, Al, I would say they definitely drank a little bit before they clashed the heck out of those dies. Although I think there was a lot of kids involved in the minting process there. There's kind of a cool old illustration that shows a kid sitting there putting in planchets and pulling out coins, trying not to get his fingers smashed. Let's see. Let me catch up on the comments real quick. Al, thanks for dropping in. Yeah, the provenance is something that I really keep track of. And if you take a look at 1794largesense.com and go to the provenance section, that's where I get a lot of this information from. These coins have been tracked for a lot of years by a lot of people, and Larry Schaefer currently runs the website. He took it over from Al Boca. I actually have Al's book sitting here as well. I have a couple of Al Boca coins. Truly one of the bigger names in 1794s, but he put together the Provenance Gallery of 1794, which is a really great resource for early mint information. Let me just flip a couple of pages. My desktop's gotten a little cluttered intentionally, but also it gets to be a little bit in the way. So there's a little bit of discussion about, the first mint director, David Rittenhouse, appointed by George Washington. What I'm really hoping to find, here's the map. I'll put together this map showing where the first mint was located. And then if you look at the lower right, George Washington's residence. That's pretty neat. Then we get into just listing all of the prominent 1790 website now as well. And then he shows like one very nice example of each variety, along with the pedigree information in this book. I don't have any coins from this book. None of mine are top pop. My nicest example that you'll see in a little bit is about condition census 5, my Sheldon 69, which would be the coin I start out all my videos with. Okay, we did the Sheldon 35, and if you thought that one was ugly, hold on to your shorts, because here's my Sheldon 36. This one has, let's see, who did I get this one from? Dan Trollin, ex-Chris McCauley and Dan Trollin. This is the low head. You see the bust sits very close to the rim. And it's a single berry reverse. If you ever see a single berry on the reverse of a 1794, it is rare. So we're talking the berry to the left of the ribbon bow. Usually there's 2 berries, and on this one there is only 1. So keep an eye out for single berries. This one should also be single berry, but it's obliterated so you can't see it. All right, Sheldon 38 is next. This is a marred field variety. This one was Tom Reynolds' New Cumberland collection, and you see that marred field right there. This is really a pretty decent example, and it's also single berry on the reverse. Yeah, you can definitely make out that single berry to the left of the ribbon bow. Pretty neat example. Let me dig into the provenance on this one. 38. DNS Coins, Tom Reynolds, Ken Myers, New Cumberland collection through Sean Yancey to myself. It's a fun one. Next up's the Sheldon 39, which is right here. If I can get it. There it is. Okay. So same obverse die. And you'll see the marred field right there. On the reverse of this one, it's got super wide ribbon tails, very widely spaced. This is an extremely rare variety. I think it's recently bumped down to an R5 plus. Most of these are downgrading left and right as more come out of the ground and more are discovered. But I don't know if it's currently the case, but historically this is the second rarest variety of 1794 large cent. Only the Sheldon 37 is more rare. But again, this one I think is still an R6, so this one might have nudged ahead of that one. Tom Reynolds coin, Ken Myers, Sean Yancey, New Cumberland collection. And then 40, I don't have a 40. No, wait, I do have a 40. Hey, guess what? I have a 40. I almost forgot I have this one because it's, well, you'll see why. Because it looks like this. But bear with me. You see the marred field right there? Like, you can plainly make that out. So if you look at that, you're like, that is a marred field, right? And then if we flip it over, if we look super close, there's a die crack. I want to say it's through the D, but let's pull out the book and look real quick. All right, Sheldon 40, R5 plus, it's a tough one. I got this coin from Jim Carr at the ANA last summer, and I gave him a list of what I needed, and he was like, oh, I have a 40, it's really, really ugly. And I was like, I'll take it. The crack is between the U and N in United. So let's see if I can make that out again. There's the marred field. If we flip it over, should be right in here. Anyway, under magnification, you can kind of make it out. This one's not terribly difficult to attribute despite its abysmal condition. But again, a fun one for me. I already have a couple that really show off that marred field obverse, so that one I wasn't too worried about. Next up's the 41. I'd say this is one of my nicer coins. I picked this one up from Tom Deck from his personal collection. He's also a dealer, but this was out of his own personal inventory. And on the reverse, we have some fun die breaks through the A in States and through the D in United. And then you can see where they converge in the middle, and you have a little sunken die action kind of happening there. So that's sort of neat. History of money. How you doing, man? Let's see. S38, page 321 in the Whitman book. Let's see. I don't know if I have the Whitman book. Yeah, S38 is one of my favorites because it's got. We've talked about how the single berry reverse is always rare. So is the marred field. So you get both of those cool diagnostics on the 38. Marred field, single berry. I really enjoy that about the 38. $42. Oh, this is another of my my ugliest of ugly examples. It's got some graffiti around the mouth. There's just not much to enjoy about this one. This is just one that I picked up as a placeholder, working towards completion that I will look forward to upgrading eventually. I don't think I've ever actually laid all these out before. I'm going to sit down for a second and rearrange these a little bit to make some more room. That one got a little bit of dust on it or something. Okay. Just going to tighten these all up. Another little piece of dust. Feel free to drop into the comments and leave a note or two. I'd say we're about 2/3 of the way through the 1794s. And then after that, I'm certainly glad to drag out some other stuff if there's anything in particular you're curious about. It's probably the same piece of dust I've just been knocking off of each coin onto the next. Okay. Other thing I need to do is top off my beverage. Since I'm out of my Jim Bridger whiskey, I went and raided the top shelf at my wife's restaurant and put up a fresh bottle of this Adictivo Extra Añejo tequila. I'm like a whiskey bourbon guy, but if you've never had really good Extra Añejo tequila, wow. Yeah, History of Money. I've definitely just got the device here playing the classical channel. So that was definitely some Beethoven. Let me get a pour of this here. It's also kind of funny they keep your last pour in the lid. So I found this stuff. My wife every now and again insists that we take a vacation. So we went with the kids down to Cancun a couple of years ago, and that's where I discovered this particular tequila, and it's just wonderful. Mm-hmm. Okay, think I spilled a little bit right there. Let's jump into the next one. Okay, I told you I got my 35 from Doug Durasoff. I also got his 43. I've really enjoyed befriending senior collectors who have completed their 94 sets, their 1794 sets, and are working on upgrades. Oh, I don't have any 15 star. So I'm so focused on 1794s and 1823 restrikes and N2s. That's really all I collect, but I do want to get one of the 15 star matron heads. I think they're super cool. All right, this is a Sheldon 43, again from Doug Durasoff. And what I like about the 43 is that it develops this really cool crack right there through the U in United. And then it's also got cracks through the date, which are kind of tough to show off. I wonder if I can just, if I can get a decent focus. Might need some supplemental light here. And it just doesn't want to focus that close, unfortunately. But there's that big old crack through U. Cool variety, the Sheldon 43. Another one that someday I'll probably upgrade, but that one makes me happy for the time being. Sheldon 44 being next. Another one that came from Tom Deck's personal collection. Same obverse that we just saw. Little cracks through the date. And then on the reverse, you pick up a crack to the left of, which is one of the only diagnostic markers remaining on this reverse, and I like that. I like things that are aesthetic and minimally diagnostic. I love 1794s, but I can't reasonably afford to collect them in high grade, so I like to get nice looking lower grade examples. On the varieties that I don't care a whole lot about, or where their diagnostics are plenty apparent even in low grade. So that's a good example. I don't know, is that better? Yeah, that's probably better. I have another Sheldon 44. This one I'm still studying. This is actually the coin that started this channel accidentally. It's worth talking about. So I'm going to grab a seat. So this one is an anomaly. It has a super thick planchet. I assume you can see that, but let me hold up another coin right next to it. Yeah, you can see how thick that thing is, right? Monster thick, and it's wedge shaped. You'll see it's thick there, and as I turn it, it's thin here, like normal here, and then it gets thicker. But the edges are not thickened. It's got a full rim all the way around. It's not like someone spooned this thing, right? I mean, it's got a full rim. That is not thickened on one side only from damage. It just is wedge shaped, and it's a plain edge. I don't know exactly what's going on with this one. I'm still kind of studying it. But I made a video just showing that one off for the Large Sense group on Facebook, and I was like, hey, what in the world is going on with this one? And got some comments and feedback. Made a couple other little videos just sort of showing off my coins, I guess. Like instead of just a photo gallery, I had like a little video gallery of each coin. And then Tom Deck, who is who I got. That coin, that coin, that coin. That coin. That coin from. He suggested that I should continue making large cent related video content for YouTube, so I did, and here we are. I've really been enjoying it. I appreciate all you guys that that tune in and subscribe. We got 10 people right now, which is a great number. It's not often you get to hang out and talk with 10 people about coins. My local coin club has usually 4 or 5 people in attendance, and no one brings anything, so it's just me bringing stuff. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. Hey, Jack. Yeah, I thought I would try live, Jack. It's a feature that I've had that I've never actually tried out, so I was like, let's see what happens. This one's a Sheldon 45. I got this one from Dan Charlin as well. Beautiful, right? No, but what is beautiful is this one is known for having a die chip inside of the left ribbon bow. You see it plain as day, right? Ribbon bow right there. Left one has a very apparent chip in the middle of it. So that's the diagnostic I care about. So that's why I got that coin. And having Dan Charlin provenance is very cool. He also completed a complete set of 1794s and auctioned them off. Same with Chuck Heck, same with Al Boca. Next up, Sheldon 47. This one's ex-Jim Carr, not to be confused with Jim Carr, not to be confused with Jim Carr. I got this before I went to take Jim Carr's ANA summer seminar class on early American copper. And I handed it to him. I was like, check that out. And he's like, oh, nice. And I was like, do you recognize it? And he was like, no. I was like, oh, well, it's yours. It was yours. And he was like, oh, must be one of the other Jim Carrs. So then I sent a picture of it to one of the other Jim Carrs. And he's like, must be that other Jim Carr. So there's at least 3. And that was one of them. Nothing super exciting about this coin. It has sort of a unique ribbon bow orientation, but hard to see on that example. Another one that I'll upgrade eventually. Okay, the next segment that I have, which is complete, is the reverse X segment, or the closed wreath reverse segment, which includes some very rare examples and some very common varieties as well. This one being common, Sheldon 49. Check out that date punch. Isn't that hilarious? I think it's kind of cool. It's also got a crack going on the left side of E in Liberty. Might be tough to see. And then, of course, the closed wreath reverse or reverse X. And I have some other examples that show off both the closed top of the wreath better. And then this right ribbon tail is tucked very close against the fraction. That's one of your markers there. But I really like this one. It's kind of aesthetic despite the punch. All right, we've cleared another page. Okay, we've got this page yet to go, and the top row and a couple in the next row on the one after. I'm gonna run out of room for certain. Okay, I'll keep tightening these up a little bit. And again, drop into those comments, guys. I'll look at them here in a moment after I create a little space. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, I found myself being home alone tonight since my wife and my daughter are at work and my sons are off at college. They come back next week, though, so I'll be hanging out with them again, which will be nice. This whole almost empty nesting thing, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Okay, Sheldon 50. I've had a couple of these. Chris, you have Chris Arnold. You have my other one, which was probably a nicer coin. Sometimes I sell my better of my 2. Yeah, those trays are great, right? The Lighthouse brand boxes and trays. I like them. Okay, flip a page in my notes. All right, yeah, this one is from Boston to Doug Bird to Tom Deck to me. It's just like an all right looking low grade example of this Rarity 5 Sheldon 50. It's just kind of a neutral coin. Nothing to love, nothing to hate. It's just an alright, low-grade example of a rare variety. Alright, 51. This one came from Nathan Markowitz. Nathan was the first person to really welcome me into EAC. And when I couldn't make it to the EAC conference because of a date conflict, he invited me to the American Numismatic Summer Education Seminars, which have been a blast. All right. That's a nicer looking example. I mean, it's got a little blotchy surface, but the details are there and there's no real corrosion issues. And a pretty nice depiction of that reverse. So again, that right side ribbon tail sits tight up against the fraction, and then the wreath at the top is closed. This reverse was used on 6 deployments, which is the most deployed die in early large sense. Who else was on that one? Jack Beimer, Richard Wright, Michael Arconti, Dan Trollin, Nathan Markowitz. To me, it's got a pretty good provenance to it. Okay, Sheldon 52, a Rarity 6 minus coin. Again, another rather rare, tough example. I got this one from Larry Schaefer, who runs the 1794 Provenance Registry now. He took it over from Al Boca. This one was raw shiny copper when I got it. It is starting to recolor a bit. The reverse is not taking as well as the obverse. I don't do anything fancy to recolor my coins. I let them do it naturally. So this one, that one, all started off raw, and then all I've done with them is use skin contact, skin oil, not like sweat and stuff, but like nose oil. I will basically apply nose oil to that, or that, and then I will carry them for a little while in this leather pouch in my pocket, just to keep them from getting scuffed up or banged up. And that sort of humid environment in your pocket, coupled with the skin oil on the coin, starts to change its color a little bit. And then once the color is starting to take, I just let it sit out for a while and monitor it. That one really has turned out nicely, I think. This one's kind of on its way, and this one I'm just not really messing with much at the moment. It works for the time being. But a rare coin, provenance on that. Larry Schaefer cherry picked it, so there's not much before him. Okay, Sheldon 53 is a super rare variety, one of the big stoppers. And this one has sort of a fun story as well. I bought that one from the Loma Linda collection through Tom Schuler, through Tom Deck. That was the provenance that it had when I got it. Larry Schaefer, who I got that coin from, was auditing the Sheldon 53s in the registry because there was more of them shown in the registry than were believed to have existed. So when he did that audit, he came up with something pretty cool, in that before it went to the Loma Linda collection, where apparently they didn't keep track of the provenance, before that, it was owned by 2 very prominent collectors, George Lee Kuntz and Tom Morley. I have Morley's book sitting around here somewhere, I think. Yeah, it's right here. So Tom Morley owned that one in his collection, but that wasn't known when I bought it. I just bought it as being Loma Linda collection. So then Larry did some research. He went into John Lusk's Numa study, I believe, and looked around a little bit. And then he concluded that it was the Tom Morley coin that I owned. And of course, I went ahead and jumped into the noise book, and there's my coin. And it shows GLK for George Lee Kuntz, Tom Morley before that, and I think I paid less than that too, even. But yeah, a really solid example, even though it's shown as a 7, not 3, right? But these Sheldon 53s, again, very scarce. Your top pop's a 40, followed by a 35, followed by a 25, down to 15s and 8s by the time you get to the bottom of the first page. So I'm excited to have this one. It's definitely been waxed at some point, well before me. And obverse is much nicer than the reverse, which is what I care about more so than the reverse. And then the last of the reverse X segment is one that I cherry picked for cheap on eBay and will someday upgrade. There's one for sale on Heritage right now, but it's well up into the couple of thousands, and I'm not trying to spend that on that coin. But this one was 175 bucks, so it works for me for now. All right, we're making some progress. Man, that's more coins than I realized. When I don't have them all out at the same time, and I just definitely don't want to do the math on what I've got tied up there. My wife would have a come apart. Sheldon 55. This is not my first line 55, but it's the one that's part of my collection. Like if I ever sell my collection, this is the one that goes with my collection. We'll look at the other one next. Yeah, I don't mind the wax. Like I'm gonna just keep it on, I think, for the most part. I'm afraid of what that one will look like underneath, and when it's plated in the book looking exactly like that, I just don't want to mess with it. So what's neat about this Sheldon 55, hard to see in this format, but the date is kind of weakly struck. You'll note that it's a fairly well struck coin, but the date is just sort of missing. When I flip this over, the same position the date's in on the reverse, up here, very weakly struck as well, right? Whereas the bottom 3/4 looks good, right? But up there is weak, and then the date is weak. This was struck with axially misaligned dies. This particular coin came from the Lou Alfonso collection and some others. Let me grab my notes. Let's see. Struck on misaligned dies. Planchet flaw through the M in America. So this was Wayne Phipps, Doug Bird, Lou Alfonso, Scott Fratsky, and myself. That's one that I do like. And if I can dig down in my trays here a little bit, let me grab my other one. And it's stuck. There it is. Okay. You know I love slabs, right? No. This Sheldon 55 was in the X-Men collection, which is cool. And before that, I got it from Chris Collins through Tom Deck, Scott Moore, X-Men Estate. Before that, Dr. Dorothy Pascal had it. Before that, the Dr. William Sheldon, who the Sheldon numbering system is named after and who created the 70-point grading system. This coin was owned by Dr. Sheldon himself. That is probably safely the best pedigree I'm ever likely to own. Having any coin that was in Dr. Sheldon's collection is certainly noteworthy. Okay. Sheldon 56. This is my office boy. Okay. This is a fun one. It's got some weird sort of green junk on the surfaces. Definitely went into the ground when it was high grade. You can definitely see the die crack under the cap right there. And the Office Boy reverse is a mess. This one's kind of hard to appreciate though, because it's definitely been eaten up on the reverse more than the obverse. The obverse survived in the ground far better than the reverse did. And shellac. We were talking about shellac. We're at the Sheldon 57, which even more prominently than my 20 has been shellacked. This one was in the Norweb collection, which is a very well-known, famous collection. And it's got sort of like a alligator skin looking surface that has been shellacked over the top. Again, another example that's high grade but problematic. Yeah, Office Boy because of the bad workmanship. In fact, let me pull out a resource and we can talk about that one for just a second. That's exactly what it was, though. They said that they must have let the Office Boy do the engraving work on that reverse. Okay, Office Boy reverse, reverse. The Office Boy reverse. The wreath is unsymmetrical. Some of the leaves are too deeply cut. The TA of states is joined at the bottom. The A and M of America is too widely spaced. The N in 1 was first cut upside down and then recut. 2 knots on the ribbon bow, no connection between them. Short fraction bar sloping to the right. Right ribbon end seems to fall inward towards the fraction and then turn back, making an angle. Tip of the ribbon is detached and pointed. Berries, berries, berries. Yeah, that was their dig though, is that it was a poorly done reverse. But I don't know. I mean, I don't disagree, but there's plenty of anomalies in 1794s that are also fairly ugly. Sheldon 58 is next. This was my first 1794. This is the one that kind of got me. Well, this was the one that I had when I encountered my Sheldon 69, which you'll see in a little bit. But sort of a rough dug coin. I won it on eBay auction for a couple $100, and was just really impressed with the thick planchet, lettered edge, and it got me researching 1794s. And you can see I've picked up a couple more since. All right, Sheldon 59. This one I got from Chris McCauley out of the Chris Pretch catalog, but it was not one of Chris Pretch's coins. This one came out of an annex slab. It's, sort of a smooth lower grade example, but it's fairly late die state, and there is a crack that runs through the fraction and over to the A in America. And you can kind of see that. It sort of attaches to the top of the 1 and then goes through the fraction bar. So a fun variety and one that I definitely wanted in a later die state. Up next, Sheldon 60, which I picked up from Craig Sheldon, who's an EAC member. I was actually looking at this coin about a year before I bought it because Jim Carr sent me some pictures when he was at a show with Craig, and then I saw it on eBay, talked with Craig, and picked it up. Or I saw one of Craig's other coins on eBay, talked to him, he showed me some pictures. I was like, oh, I know this coin, I'm interested in it. It's got some kind of crazy damage right there. But a pretty nice depiction on the obverse and a nice budget example to fill another spot. Sheldon 61. This one's kind of fun. This one came through the channel. I'm so running out of space here. Let me flip my page and get all my notes correct. So through the channel, Darren Terabori reached out to me and asked if I I had any interest in buying this coin. And I was like, that's an example a variety that I still need. And I was up at the EAC course at the ANA Summer Seminar with a bunch of young numismatist students, like high school kids and younger. And Jim Carr was teaching the class. I told him that I had just been offered this coin by someone from the channel, and he asked me to make an offer. And I was like, I'm not comfortable making an offer. I don't want to rip anybody off. What's up, Eric? Uh, I do like to play with the old cents. So what we did was we had the class grade this and provide us with an opinion of value for a like a private party deal, and then I added a little bit to that amount. I think I added like $50 and made during the offer, and he got it to me. It was raw, shiny copper when I got it. I carried it in my pocket for a weekend, and this is what it did, so I left it. Truly raw, shiny copper, and super hot weekend. And I was outside for a day with it in my pocket. It turned like this, and I just did nothing more than stick it in a capsule. Okay, Sheldon 62 and one of my favorite coins. This one came from Al Boga. See that big cud right there? Sheldon 62 has die state 1 and die state 2. This one's die state 2. Die state 1 does not have the cud. This coin has been waxed at some point, and just a lovely example with some really fun history. So we've looked at Al's book. I'll grab it again. So Al is who really took over tracking provenance on 1794s. He made this book, he made the website, and his registry is still very much alive today. Al had a complete set of 1794s. In fact, I'm going to step away for a second and just grab something that Al sent me to show you. Give me one sec. I had to pull this off of my wall. So these are all Al's coins, not the one I just showed you. But these are the 38 obverses of 1794 large cents. These all came from Al's complete set. So Al sold all of his large cents, and he again created the 1794largecents.com website with all of the provenance tracking and all of the collector bios and things like that. And he just had an exceptional collection of 1794 cents. So I sent Al a message and I said, hey, if you are aware of any 1794s that have your provenance or pedigree that are available for purchase, let me know. I'd be interested in one. Al sent me a message back and he said, I have one left that I didn't sell. And it's not because he kept it for a particular reason. This would have been his second line 62. He forgot he had it. He had it mixed in with his New Jerseys. This one's a gallery New Jersey, not an original, but he collects New Jerseys now that he sold his 1794s, and this was just tucked in with his New Jerseys. So he let me have it for what he paid for it, which was the second most I've ever spent on a coin. So it wasn't exactly affordable, but I had to make sure that I didn't pass up that opportunity. So that's how I got that 62, and I love it. We're getting into some of my nicer stuff. Thanks, Eric. I'm glad you're here. So the Fallen 4 is the next variety, and it's one that I care about. I think it's a really neat variety, and I wanted to get a nice example of. See that Fallen 4 there? This is a lovely coin. This one was owned by March Wells, Trina Husak, who would be the legendary Walt Husak's daughter, and Jim Neiswinner. Jim sold his complete set of 1793 large cents when Dan Trollin sold his complete set of 1794 large cents. And they actually shared a catalog. What's interesting about Jim's collection is he had this 1794 in it. He was not a 1794 collector, he collected 1793s. Why did he have this coin in there? Jim is who discovered, the first person to discover that this reverse die on the Fallen 4 Sheldon 63, the reverse die is fairly distinct. The right ribbon tail is attached to the fraction bar. And if you go back and look at the 1793 Liberty caps, the reverse die used on several of those is this exact same die that had dentals cut in place of the beaded border and been reworked, and then it was redeployed in 1794. It's pretty crazy, and he was not believed generally by the EAC community, which is wild. Eventually, John Lusk using overlays proved that he was correct, but it's pretty apparent. Let me grab a book here. I have so many books. Let's see if I can slip this one out. Okay. Let me just stage my pages here real quick. Okay, there's one. I'm close. And yeah, let's go with that one. Okay. So see where that tail attaches to the fraction? And where that tail attaches to the fraction? Look at the shape of the T's in states. See how the top bar is sort of narrow and distinct? You're going to see that same T style there, which is much different than what we see on the heads of 94s usually. See the difference? And then, of course, where we have dentals here, there was a beaded border there, but the same number of beads as there are dentals. Jim pieced that all together, and instead of everyone being like, great discovery, Jim, they were like, you're full of shit, and nobody believed him, and nobody took the time to do what we just did right there. It's pretty apparent, right? It took like 20 years for him to convince people with John Lusk's assistance that his discovery was correct. So, as much trouble as Jim went through to confirm that the reverse of the Fallen 4 was a 1793 reverse die, I thought it was great that I was able to have his specimen from his sale. So I love that coin, one of my favorites. Next up, Sheldon 64, which is the missing fraction bar variety. This one I really enjoy because I cherry picked it. This one was unattributed on eBay, and it's a fairly common obverse shared with the Sheldon 65. It's called the shielded hair obverse, and I think you can see why. Very heavy dished dentillation there, very weak rim over here. The reverse on this one, the fraction bar is missing. A little bit of environmental damage on this guy somewhat obscures that region, but if you look under magnification or look closely with the naked eye, it's pretty clear. Big old late die state crack through D. This is the latest die state, and in fact, it's in a later die state than what Chuck has in his book, in the 1794 die states book. And Chuck said he thinks this one might justify adding another category. And then, of course, that sunken reverse die, which you can see the premature wear in the middle from where that reverse die collapsed. All right, we're through another page, and we're getting close. We've got 6 or 7 left. Sheldon 65 would be next. History of money. Yeah, honestly, this one has a 4 that's a little low, and yeah, the 9 is higher than the 7, I would say, but the 4, they definitely ran out of space. But it's definitely known as the Fallen 4 generally. Next up is the Sheldon 65. Again, the same obverse as the 64 with the shielded hair, and you can see how that does protect some of the devices. This one's totally slick on the reverse. How do I know it's a 65? There are cracks through the date, through the 9 and through the 1. And gosh, they're so hard to show off in this setting. You can kind of see the 1 going past the 9. Let's see if more light helps. There it is. See that one through the 9? That's the more prominent of the two. Then there's one that goes through the 1 at a similar angle. Sheldon 65s are really common, so I think it's funny to have them in low grade. I could get a nice one. I just like having that low grade example. Next up is the Sheldon 66 split pole, which is a pretty high rarity. Let me get my notes on this one, actually. This one was Rod Burris, Dan Trollin. I got it from Tom Deck. So I'm not a laundry list of pedigree, but some very prominent names. And can you see that split pole? It just looks like it's frayed at the end in this lower grade. Yeah, it's tough to see. It's there, but just looks like the tip of the pole is frayed. But that is the split pole, and not quite up in the condition census, but fairly respectable for a split pole variety. Okay, Sheldon 67 I don't have. Here's a Sheldon 68. This one I got from Nathan Markowitz as well. It is all kinds of problematic, but very diagnostic. See that big fat bisecting break through the hair and out the bridge of the nose? This is as late as it gets for diastate. It's been cleaned, it's got built up corrosion, it's all kinds of problematic, but look at that heavily diagnostic crack. So cool. There it is. It really shows off there. Not much on the reverse, but super cool and very light diastate. And I always want the latest diastate I can get. Okay, the next coin is kind of the one that started it all for me. It is the introduction coin on the channel. It is my Sheldon 69 that I inherited from my uncle. It's the 5th finest Sheldon 69. It came from England. It is lovely. It's tracked as a MS60 net 50 because it's been dipped. It's got a couple of minor wipes, but it is the 5th finest Sheldon 69, and I am exceedingly careful with it. Just lovely. There is still luster in the hair. The fields, I think the luster was burned a little bit from its dip, which is unfortunate. Now this one would have gone to England likely at the same time as the Lord St. Oswald coins. For Sheldon 69s, the top 3 are all Lord St. Oswald coins, and this one's the 5th finest. But 4 of the top 5 came from England, and I suspect they went over together, and this one probably went with someone from the entourage, and it got separated from the main collection. But this is just a lovely coin. Eric, the split is just a die break. I'll show one to you real quick. I'm just going to pull out the noise book here. Yeah, that's one that I'll probably try and upgrade someday. It's respectable enough in person. It's just really hard to show off on the camera. So there's that split. See, it just runs right along the pole up into the neck. All right, Sheldon 70 and 71. There's only two left. This one I got from Nick Panos, who's Gram for Kids on eBay. Very high volume seller, but nice hard surfaces. Is that better or worse? That's better. Die crack between T and Y and Liberty. And then the reverse has these crazy planchet voids. Just tons of little holes, almost like it got shot with bird shot or something. But those are as minted. It's really a pretty nice coin. Some planchet voids on the obverse too. All those little spots you see are not damaged. That's as minted. Boy, am I running out of space. Put that one there. And last, Sheldon 71. Picked this one up from Hollenbeck Coin when I was down in Colorado Springs last summer. And yeah, it's definitely a die break. Acadian, how are you doing, man? Thanks for dropping in. This is the last of my 1794 varieties. So this one, Sheldon 71, it's got a die break up in Liberty that's kind of hard to see. A little more light help that one. Yeah, it wraps between the R and the T. Right there, you can see it. There it is. Okay. Well, I'll just throw that one right there. Well, we've made it through most of my 1794s. There's, I don't know. There's a couple more there that don't need to come out. Got another 62 here. That's another bent lock. That's another 65. But this is my main collection as it is. Oh, hey, Dad. What's up? There's my dad. Thank you. Yeah. Anything else you guys want me to pull out? The goal was to just sort of lay out all of the 1794s, and I've got 9 more to go until I'm complete. Maybe what I'll do is sit down and relax for a second and have a drink while you guys pop something into the comments. Again, over the last 6 months on this channel, we've killed my Jim Bridger whiskey from Bozo, Montana, and what I'm sipping on tonight is Adictivo Extra Añejo tequila that I discovered when I was down in Cancun. And really good tequila is really, really good. Yeah, this live format, again, something I just thought I would try out. I've never tried it before. Saw that it was available to us, and I appreciate all of you for sticking around. Probably do this on occasion, not all the time, but I thought it was fun. Yeah, what else do you want me to pull out? Anything? If anything you want me to pull out, I'm glad to. The green one? Yeah, that one's really fun. it was a lot of people encouraged me to conserve it, to remove all the green. And if I would have done that, look how great that portrait is. Thanks, Kevin. I mean, it's truly a remarkable portrait given the overall condition of the coin. And if I would have removed that green, it would have been left looking about like that. So I'm glad I didn't, but I sure thought about it. I mean, it's heavily, heavily corroded. And again, it's lighter in weight than what you would expect it to be. But I really enjoy it. So I waxed it to try and keep that all encapsulated, try and slow down the growth and whatnot. I'm going to leave it just like it is the plan, but a super rare variety, one of the tougher to get in my set. Yeah, I like looking at all the different colors that present themselves here. You know, you got some sort of reds, variety of browns, some blacks, some tans. Certainly my favorites are the 69 and the 63, the Fallen 4 and the Sheldon 69. That 17A is pretty special. Alboca's 62 right there. That one's pretty great. If you have any 1794s you're looking to part with, always hit me up. I'm always looking to fill in gaps or do some upgrades here and there. Over on the description for my channel, I have info about this one that is for sale. It's my downgrade 41. I got Tom Deck's super nice one there. This one was Nathan Markowitz's late die state sunken die reverse with both of the die cracks. And I'm looking to get 400 out of that one, even though I gave Nathan 500 for it. What are the gold looking ones? Here, the gold ones here, Acadian, or up in here, because some of these are gold. I mean, that's a $20 gold piece, $5 gold piece, and that's a nickel that somebody gold plated. Bronze French metal. Yeah, that's Marianne. I don't know a whole lot about it. This one's a Libertas Americana, and that is a French restrike of the original. And then that one is Marianne. Let me move this Druid out of the way. And I think it was just sort of a generic presentation medal because it has got a spot to engrave on the reverse. So I don't think it's particularly well known. I got it for like 20 bucks. Yeah. So I don't know a whole lot about it, but it is a French depiction of Marianne. I believe, yeah, there's an engraver's name on it. Let's see if I can make it out here. Oops. Daniel Dupuis, it looks like. Yeah, that was a cool one for the desktop. Just something I thought would show well. And then, of course, the Libertas Americana, which is a very fun one. My dad has an original that you can find in several of my videos. And then I just got the restrike and enjoy putting that one on the desktop for everyone to look at. Yeah, Dupuis. Yep. Yeah, I've noticed, Acadian, that the resolution on live is lower than what I'm accustomed to. So that is definitely something that I'll consider moving forward. Lower resolution for sure. The Druids have been a fun little side collection. I put away most of my nice ones, but I do keep this one out on the desktop. Let me pull it out. So this one came out of the Noonan's Horde. You can see that it is a very lovely light brown with some sort of reds in it. And then the reverse is truly still mint red. and it is a 1788. So that one's held up pretty well for the last 2.5 centuries to have not toned on the reverse. This is probably mid. I've got 5 of them. This one's kind of in the middle. And then I have a red brown, and then I have a really nice proof that's still very much red. But I try to be pretty careful with those for obvious reasons. Yeah, this is just a cheap racketeer nickel off of eBay. I'm sure it's a modern one. Probably not a bad little business to get some decent V nickels and plate them. But, it was like $20 or something on eBay, I think. What else do I have up here that's fun? Lots of gallery mint stuff at the top. A few cheap counterfeits over there that are actually knockoffs of gallery mints, not of 1794s, which is interesting. Like this is not a counterfeit copy of one of those. It's a counterfeit copy of this. Same hair. In fact, so is that one. Same family. Same hair. They ripped off a Landis replica rather than an authentic 1794, which I thought was funny. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, you guys. I've been going at it for like an hour and a half, so might wrap it up. And I don't know. If you guys had fun, drop me a message and we'll do it again sometime. $5. I paid way too much if you can get it for $5. And I don't know if that one's actually gold plated or not, but I do like gold. It's where I started out. Really, these $5 gold Indians are one of my favorites. I like gold because you can't hurt it too. You can just kind of handle it however you want as long as it's not lustrous. This one is fairly well worn, and I've pocket carried a little bit. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, it's been the 94s are coming together. There's a handful of them that I do intend to upgrade, but I'm not trying to build some choice set. If I can have an average of a fine to very fine, I'm happy. Like most of these, like I'm not going to upgrade anything in the top row. These two I'll upgrade. Maybe that one. These two I will. That one I will. Maybe that one. But really mean this one I will. That one I will. But I don't know. Maybe a quarter of these I want to upgrade. But otherwise, I'm happy with the condition that I have. I like the history more than I care about them being immaculate coins. I'm going to put up a video tomorrow. I think tomorrow of my type coins. I'm still working on my typeset. Like everybody, I've got a typeset. And I'm working on the barbers right now. I've got one really nice barber quarter, and then my dime and my half both need upgraded. And I don't have a nice slabbed V nickel yet. So that's what I'm working on now. But yeah, my nice coins are my type coins, and my early copper I don't collect because I want them all to be high grade. I'm happy to have a couple high grade examples like that, and that, and that, and that. I don't care about having them all nice. I just like to be able to see the diagnostic variation and again the history for me. My first copper, my first 1794 was this one here, this Sheldon 58. That was my first 94. My first copper was this one right here, this petite head, which has been a pocket piece for me for a long time. It's gone through a lot of color transitions, and right now it's looking a little brassy. But yeah, that barber quarter. If you do check out my video on that. In fact, should I just grab it? Let me grab it. Give me 1 second. I want to show you this barber quarter. It's so nice. I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. I just got to get it out of the box. So we've got an AU55 with really nice aesthetic toning on the obverse, sort of blues around the rim, and then reds, and then white in the center. And then the reverse is like an uniform pink with some blues, sort of more crescent around that part of the rim. But yeah, I really do like my type coins, and I like my type coins to be slabbed, unlike my copper. I like my copper to be raw. I have intentionally put together a slabbed typeset. And in fact, I'll pull those pages out real quick and show them to you. So this is where I'm at on cents and into my nickels. Then I'll grab the next tray. Kind of cool that my dad popped in here on the comments, huh? I don't think I told him I was going live when we had coffee this morning. We do coffee every morning. We live just down the street from each other. Hey, Brooks. Yeah, those steel cents, I've only got one, and it's an MS66. I tried to get everything in 66, and then when I got back into, the barbers and the Standing Liberty, I had to settle for AUs. And this one's just awful. I mean, AU50 should be as ugly as a coin can be while being about uncirculated, right? And it is. And my last tray. That one definitely needs upgraded. This one I thought was really nice for an MS62, and I don't think I'm going to upgrade it. It's a really nice walker. Some proofs. And then on the Peace and Morgan, I just wanted to get hoard coins. I didn't care about them being particularly nice because I've got a bunch of nice Peace dollars. This is a decent Morgan. Yeah, I've just got like assorted BU Peace dollars, so I don't care so much about having a nice one in a slab. That one, I traded my brother a really nice. I traded him one like that for that one because the coin shop sold him that and told him it was a nice coin, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I took that in trade and gave him one that looks more like that. Yeah, Dave, I don't really collect much that's colonial. My dad and my son do. I'm really just heavily focused on 1794s. The couple of colonials that I did have, I gave to my kids. And my dad and my uncle collected together throughout the 80s. And my uncle's collection has a bunch of fantastic colonial coins. And at some point in the future, I hope to show those off. They're stored, in a bank vault in a different state, so I don't get to see them all that often. But he has truly a world-class colonial collection. All kinds of. He's got a original Higley. He's got one of those pewter continental dollars, the Fujio dollars. He's got just everything under the sun. That Summer Islands one with the boar on it. Every state colonial copper in very high grade, uncirculated grades. Yeah, I only have one Condor token that's not a druid, and it's this funny cowboy guy. I thought that was cute. The Condor tokens are very affordable. This was like 20 some bucks, and it's a 1794 if I'm not mistaken. 1793. Yeah. Yeah, Dave, drop me a message sometime. I can send you a couple of pictures of what I was talking about there. All right, guys. I think that will be a wrap on our first live. Can't thank you enough. Again, this has been really fun. Um, a little tiring. I'm more used to recording stuff casually and then editing out all the dumb stuff. It's amazing that you can take a really poorly done recording and then through the magic of video editing, you can make some pretty decent content. So you got me raw tonight without any edits. Yeah, Dave, thanks for joining in, you guys. Again, seriously appreciate you very much. Eric, great bust. Yeah, I'm still working my way back as well. Again, I'm working on barbers, which I want to upgrade. I want to keep everything that I have in my typeset nice and just slow down. Sort of a different approach to what I'm doing here. Here I buy what I can get, but some of the stuff is just so rare. When you get into these early dates, several of these are like one of 20 some or 30 that exist. You know, they're just exceptionally rare. So having any example is nice, but yeah, editing is where it's at. You can really clean up a lot of stuff with careful editing. A lot of times when I insert a photo that seems out of place, it's because I had to figure out a break to edit in some corrections. But all right, guys, thanks a lot. I will be talking to y'all soon, and I will have that typeset video up tomorrow if you want to check it out. But hit me up in the comments, and we'll do this again. Peace.